A group of kidnapped girls is being smuggled across the border to be sold into underground establishments. The movie opens with breathtaking shots of nature. The camera glides over a massive city, contrasting the low suburban houses with the towering skyline, before descending to the bustling streets where people go about their daily routines. Then we shift to the backyard of a typical Mexican family. Adriana is celebrating her 13th birthday with friends. Her older brother, Jorge, surprises her with a brand new bike, which immediately raises their mother's suspicion. She demands to know where he got the money and forbids Adriana from riding it. Upset, Jorge leaves to hang out with his friends waiting by the fence. Meanwhile, Veronica is on a flight to Mexico City, trying to memorize Spanish phrases. At the airport, she and her friend are greeted by Vadim, the head of a local travel agency, and his assistant, Manuel. They claim they'll escort the girls to Los Angeles, but first, they need their passports. The tourists hand them over without question. In the parking lot, Veronica suddenly feels uneasy. But it's too late. She's shoved into a car while her friend tries to escape, only to be hit by a passing vehicle. Back in the city, Jorge is luring tourists into his tours, but hidden among his brochures are ads for adult clubs, a darker side of the local, exotic experience. When a lonely tourist shows interest, Jorge takes him through narrow back streets, straight into an ambush. His buddies rob the man, waving toy guns. That night, the boys spend their stolen money at a bar. The next morning, while her mother is still asleep, Adriana leaves a postcard for her brother and takes the bike for a ride. Soon she notices a black car following her. Thinking they're just giving her space, she slows down, and in a flash, the men grab her and force her inside. At that very moment, Jorge steps out of the bar and spots a kid riding a pink bike, his sister's gift. He chases the boy down and learns the bike was found abandoned by the road. On the ground, Jorge discovers the postcard and realizes his sister is gone. He turns to a local fixer for help, who tells him that a dangerous trafficking ring might be involved. Scared, Jorge's friends back out, leaving him to search alone. Meanwhile, Vadim drags Veronica into a surveillance room. He beats her and threatens her into submission. Terrified, she remembers why she came to Mexico in the first place, chasing the dream of getting to America. In the same room, she notices Adriana. Manuel gives them pills for the pain, but Veronica secretly spits hers out when no one's watching. Jorge finally finds the place where the girls are being selected. He wanders the area till dusk, asking strangers if they've seen Adriana. Then, a truck arrives. Vadim and his men lead out a line of terrified girls, including his sister. They load them into the vehicle, and Jorge steals a car to follow them. Inside the truck, Veronica warns Adriana not to take the pills. They cloud the mind and make you easy to control. At dawn, the truck is stopped by men in uniform. Adriana thinks they're saved, but it's just another stop in the trafficking chain. Jorge watches helplessly from a distance. Manuel arranges fake papers and border passes, forcing the girls to pose for photos. Jorge's car runs out of gas, and he continues on foot, determined not to lose their trail. The path leads him to the outskirts of Juarez, the final stop before the border. That night, Jorge spots the same truck near a convenience store, while Manuel and the captives sneak across the river under the moonlight. On the U.S. side, they're intercepted by Border Patrol agents. Manuel whispers threats to keep the girls silent, reminding them their families aren't safe. By morning, the detainees are held in a border facility. Manuel is quickly released thanks to his connections. Veronica tries to tell the officers they were kidnapped, but no one believes her. Later, a local man, revealed to be a U.S. police officer named Ray, stops by a store and hears a thumping sound coming from his trunk. Inside is Jorge, who snuck in for a ride. The boy tries to run, but Ray catches him. On the way to the station, Jorge tells him everything. When he tries to escape again, Ray chases him down, and finally decides to help, using his badge and contacts to find the traffickers. Manuel, who turns out to be deeply religious, pauses on the way to pray before leading the captives across the border, where they're met by his silent, grim-faced associate. Before being taken to the trafficking market, they stop in a field, and an older man with a shady reputation temporarily takes Adriana away. Meanwhile, Ray and Jorge stop for a quick meal. Inside the diner, Ray's attention is drawn to a man with an Asian-looking child. Jorge recognizes him. He was one of the men transporting his sister. The teenager runs through the parking lot, desperate to find the boy, but a security officer stops him. Ray steps in and diffuses the situation. Moments later, they spot the man and the child. Jorge rushes forward, ready to attack the adult, but Ray stops him and tells him to focus on the boy instead. Ray quietly takes the suspect to the restroom and questions him, but the man only knows a small part of the chain. Leaving him in police custody, Ray and Jorge head to an internet cafe. Using the suspect's login, Ray enters a hidden website, and there it is. Adriana's profile, listed for sale on a dark web auction. Ray alerts his colleagues, but Jorge grows frustrated. The official investigation is moving too slow. To save time, Ray lets the teenager drive. Meanwhile, the traffickers stop at a roadside motel. The next morning, they learn the auction has been moved up. The race against time begins. Only a few hours left before the sale. Ray takes over the wheel. Later that day, the traffickers make a stop. Veronica seizes the chance. She wakes Adriana, and together they run down a hill toward a nearby town where a huge parade is underway. Veronica sends Adriana to find a police officer while she rushes to a payphone to call home. But when she does, she learns that the same people holding her documents have taken her son. Adriana spots the kidnapper's van again and tries to warn Veronica, but the woman is paralyzed by shock. The traffickers catch up and seize them once more. Furious, Manuel threatens Veronica, saying her mistakes will cost her son's life. To punish her, he takes her to a cliffside, but Veronica makes her own choice and jumps. Two cars race through the pouring rain toward New Jersey. By morning, Manuel drops Adriana off at a quiet suburban house, where she's greeted by a woman named Laura. Ray and Jorge finally reach the city and check into a motel. Ray visits an old contact, trying to shut down the operation, but the higher-ups refuse to act. The business is too profitable for powerful people. Realizing help won't come, Ray calls his wife, asking her to take money from their savings. In that call, he admits he's found his long-lost daughter. Jorge overhears this and confronts him. Ray opens up. Years ago, the mother of his illegitimate child, desperate for cash, sold their baby. Later, at an internet cafe, Ray and Jorge enter the secret auction. Following Ray's guidance, Jorge raises the bids, and at the last second, they win. The organizers send them instructions for the pickup. Ray meets Manuel in an empty parking lot and gets into his car, leaving the trunk slightly open. Jorge is hiding inside. The boy follows them to Laura's house. Inside, Laura insists on verifying the buyer. Manuel locks Ray and Adriana in an upstairs room. Ray tells her he came with her brother to rescue her. Adriana cuts her hand and stains the bedsheets with blood, a silent signal for help. When Manuel enters, she reminds him of Veronica and says it's not too late to do the right thing. Conflicted, he goes downstairs and tells Laura the deal is done. Outside, Jorge is already waiting. He knocks Manuel out with a tire iron. Laura pulls a gun on Ray, but before she can fire, a SWAT team storms the house. She surrenders. Jorge runs upstairs and embraces his sister. Police uncover evidence of other victims in the basement. Ray hands over $30,000 of his own money to the Mexican authorities. As they part ways, Jorge slips an envelope into Ray's car. Ray is left with one lingering question, but instead of chasing the answer, he decides to go home and brings his wife a cat. A plane carries Jorge and Adriana back to Mexico City. He finds Vadim, the man who started it all, and beats him. But when he hears the cry of Vadim's little son, Jorge freezes, his anger turning to grief. He looks into the camera, broken but human. The film closes with a stark message. According to CIA estimates, between 50 and 100,000 people are trafficked into the United States every year. Worldwide, the number exceeds 1 million. And despite the scale of the tragedy, the solution remains out of reach.